So move to agenda item 19. The annual Sacramento Metro Chamber Capital to Capital Legislative Program in Washington, D.C. And this will be by our city manager, Stanley Langley.
So for the last 50 years, the Metro Chamber has sent a delegation to Washington, D.C. to lobby on behalf of the member agencies. The city's been participating since 2011 and has sent a delegation pretty much annually since 2011. Even during COVID, there was virtual meetings. Historically, it's typically been the mayor and vice mayor that's attended, and then in certain years, the representative to Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency or the Sacramento Area Council of Governments has attended as well. And so the item before you tonight is to identify who will be representing the city this year at Cap to Cap, and then also we would need to approve a supplemental appropriation to increase the council's budget for the registration fees and travel. As of right now, there's currently approximately $6,775 available in the city council's budget for this type of activity. So with that, I'm hoping that council can provide direction as to who will be attending Cap to Cap.
All right. If I can start this one off for us, I brought this to Ms. Langley in a discussion we have a few weeks ago. And Cap to Cap is a viable program. It's a lobbying trip. I've participated virtually last year, did the things I've done on my own expense because I saw the value in it. I started asking the question of the former mayors of what's the history of Cap to Cap? How did we get involved with it? Who did we send? And it came out exactly as Ms. Langley said. It was the mayor and vice mayor that was sent, and occasionally you would have other members of the council that would go because of SACOG or something of that nature, or they would get other groups that they were affiliated with to sponsor them to go. The council during the last budget cycle, commend former Mayor Baumgarten for bringing this forward when we were working on the budget, but we had to tighten our belt just like all the rest of the departments did. And because when you looked historically at what the council had spent on travel and stuff, it was really disproportionate for us to have this huge travel budget, and some departments that had 10, 20, 30 people in it have a budget that's smaller for training and travel than the council did. So we really have a couple of avenues with this as I saw it tonight, and that's why I appreciate again the former mayor for asking for this to be put on the agenda. Is we need to set a policy and a precedence going forward to where we know who is going to go, because I know that I signed up and was planning on going on my own dime if need be, because I see the value in it. It'd be nice if the city paid for it, but I'm going irregardless. But it's expensive. And we set our budget at $1,500 per council member for the entire year for all of our different things we wanted to where we would have that levity to choose and pick what we wanted to go to. Cap to Cap, my bill right now is $5,200 to go Cap to Cap. So with that, do we want to set the policy to where we have certain positions that the city will fund every year? Or do we want to look at the positions that should be going to have a different, higher budget for annual travel than all five? And this was part of the discussions we had last year is, how do we budget $20,000, $30,000 for 5 people to go, on the taxpayer's dollar when we've got other departments that had an entire training budget of 10 or 12,000. So we did the prudent thing, and I still stand behind that. But as you can see, we're in a little bit better position now. We know what we're dealing with COVID. And with all of the stuff that's come forward, yes, we talked to our congressmen and we talked to our senators and everything here, but there's also merit to being part of that big lobby group that goes to where we don't miss out on some of the things. An old saying that I've heard is you're either at the table or you're for lunch, and I would rather we be at the table and try to bring some of those tax dollars back here and not let them go other places. So that's why I see the value in sending at least a small delegation. but we need to decide what the methodology is going to be. Are we going to fund particular positions, or are we going to raise the budget for certain positions on the council? So that was my thoughts, and I will open it up to my fellow council members for their thoughts.
Okay. Totally agree with the process that we went into. I think the concern that I have is I do think there's value in sending people to cap. This one gets to be a little bit of a struggle for me as I look at the training that is needed and required and beneficial to our line employees. And so then I balance. And I guess it's just the old department head in me going, is it more bang for our buck to send police officers or a public works person or a fire person to something and versus me going to Washington D.C. to speak to a staffer for a senator or an assemblyman or House of Representative. I think that there are certain times that it makes a lot of sense for us to have face-to-face contact. And I would note the previous Sabufka reps and the SACOG reps for the work that they were able to do on our behalf. I'm not against establishing either more money and or positions designated. I just say if we're going to do that, commensurate with that, we need to make sure that we're taking care of our employees and making sure they're getting the essential training they're getting as well. Because the appearance of these trips, whether it be to Japan or to wherever, is, oh, these guys are going off on a trip. I trust my colleagues to bring something back. That's not always going to be the case, and it hasn't always been the case, in my personal opinion. But if we're going to do something where we're boosting our training budget, then I think we need to be very, very mindful of doing the same for those folks who work for the city.
Any other comments?
I agree. Simply put, I agree. I think if we're going to go, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, all of us, as long as we can articulate a value attached to that and do something while we were there, because while we can compare training budgets with our travel budget, however, at the level at which we represent the city in Washington D.C. and with members of Congress, the potential that we have to leverage benefit for the city can be in the millions of dollars. Potentially, maybe not the first year, the second year, third year, but over time, as you develop and you build upon the relationships that are naturally occurring over there, you can get some big dividends and 5, 6 figures or more, or 7 or 8 figures or more. So I'm an advocate of us going. Of course, majority of our council, who we decide to send is who we decide to send, and that's fine. But I do think that our participation is relevant and it's productive. But it has to be contingent on that we make sure that we come back and provide not just a glossy overview, but a thorough report of what was accomplished during that time that we were over there on the city's expense.
Thank you. Ms. Esmendola.
Thank you for bringing this up. I agree with both council members on their points. I think that attending the first year, I believe the majority, all of us were open to to attend, correct? And there was a choice if you wanted to attend or not. I do think that there's an opportunity to perhaps, how we have that 1,500 set aside right now for each of us to kind of pick and choose. Like, I didn't go to, the League of Cities, because I thought maybe I could go to a different conference to bring some other information on other committees' assignments. And so, that worked to help bridge some discussion on other areas. I would be in favor if we set aside a budget for each of us, as we have now, like 1,500, to be whatever that amount may be. And the work, this conference is expensive. I recognize that, and it also is a different situation when there's multiple people going together and rallying and working and the teams through cap to cap. But I would say that if we could all have the opportunity to be, invited to go, one, set aside a budget, perhaps, that each of us have kind of a choose to go or not. And it's not like, the money stays in the general fund if we don't go, right? Or we can be a delegate with other associations that we work with that also brings, that face-to-face, bringing in those millions of hopefully funding opportunities to our city. I think that if you start, especially as we're moving into districting and all those things, if we start restricting who goes, who doesn't go, I think we move away from that opportunity that may be a seed planted and not yet completely fully seen. But again, I would say open it up to all of us, set aside a budget for each of us. I didn't go to the League of Cities, but I thought it was a great thing that most of you went. And I went to a different one, which I think was helping with some of the assignments that I was working for the city as well. So those are my recommendations. And I do agree with training for staffing, professional development. Haven't changed that. It's always been important to me in the get-go. And right now, thankfully, the budget is looking better for all of us. So let's be completely open on how we allow all of us to work together on this.
Vice Mayor.
Through the mayor, thank you. Well, so I never have I'm gone before. I don't know what I'm supposed to add to this, but I do like what Council Member Baumgartner said about making sure that the other departments, this is not at their detriment. So I appreciate that comment. I do, from what you tell me, there seems there's definitely a value to going. So yeah, I'm all for it. I guess the decision is what that looks like. I'd be fine with all of us going. That's the vote.
Okay. I'll open it up to public comment. Any comment from the public? Any comment from the public? How about anybody online?
We do have a comment from Mr. John Nicoletti, and he says, Washington, D.C. regulators respond to elected officials. Cap to cap has up to 400 attendees and is hard to sell a Yuba City message. Book private meetings the day before or after to get even more.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Nicoletti. Yes, before I came on the council, I've been back and forth representing other organizations since the late 90s on Capitol Hill, and that's exactly it. It's the relationships you build over time. Bring it back to the council's will, and I will just, since I was the one that brought this to Ms. Langley, I see this myself as setting policy, but as the will of the council, that we go back to the beginning where it started with the 2 positions that are allocated and not be part of the 1,500. You're going to send the mayor, the vice mayor, but I do see that there's added benefit to where it can be appropriated for that 3rd position for key committee assignments. Like this year, SACOG is actually key with the way the money is flowing from Capitol Hill through the state and through our region. That would be my recommendation, but I will open this up to a motion from any one of my colleagues.
Mr. Mayor, before we go to that, I want to just be clear that SACOG has invited me as a representative. There is a pre-trip for that. So if I am selected to go, I would be going 1 day early.
Okay.
Through the mayor, I can see your purpose of review, going back to how things were done. I think in 2018, we all were offered the opportunity to go. I think that, I think we should allow the opportunity for all council members to attend. I see your direction and sustaining how things have been done because they've been done, but there's also a great opportunity to connect others who are working on other projects in the cap to cap. And Nicoletti knows it well, as you and others. You know, we can set up one-on-one meetings before we go there with the teams of the different delegations. But I think if you start excluding council members in the opportunity to be included, I think that just sends a wrong message to our partners in the cap to cap and the work that we're doing. So I would support that we would all be given the opportunity to attend and the choice be there. And that doesn't mean that I'm interested in attending this year, but maybe next year or with another delegation related to our committee assignments. As SACOG is an important one, water is, so is Sutter Buttes flood control. There's multiple others that are extremely equally involved in that infrastructure bill that has been passed, which ties, truthfully, it ties us all into the process one way or another. And so I certainly appreciate your thoughts on that, but I'd like to include more of us instead of excluding. Thank you.
Need direction and a motion from this council of which way we're going.
Well, I do. I see value, and I don't know if it's even so much as a personal choice to decide to go. Is, do we need to go? Is it fulfill our obligation as a member of this council to be present, not whether we want to go or not? And for that reason, I can see there are various, whether we wear the hat of mayor, vice mayor, if we are in a committee or a subcommittee, or if we have connections or networking that we can leverage to the benefit of this city over there, I see the value in, as long as we can articulate and come back with a thorough report and be productive, I see the value of giving the option to all of us attending.
Okay. Is
I
that
support
motion?
your motion, if that is a motion, Councilman.
I was actually supporting yours for this.
Thank you. Okay.
It's
Thank you
all
for
good.
clarifying that it's an option, not as I said it. So that's a better way of putting it. The option is there, connected
Just
to.
as an option,
Yes.
If there's a need.
Yes, if there's a need, of course.
So what we need is a motion that would authorize all 5 council members to be budgeted and attend cap to cap if they wish. That's what I'm hearing you say.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it.
Aye.
Did you?
Okay. All right. Let me make my notes here.